And welcome back to Straight Talk. We've been talking a lot about land-based casino and a few other things, but we want to wrap it up at least a little bit.
Yeah.
On,
No. The one thing for me, Chrissy, is just like I'm listening to what you're saying, and
Right.
I think there are people in the community who would say, well, wait a minute, maybe we ought to say, look. But the big questions come up in terms, again, it will always on the other side, I think, come up in terms of the accountability. What's the track record? Okay, when you talk about any of that kind of stuff. And that's here's something simple. I'm going to talk to one individual on this particular issue, and just about the Gaming Commission. The Gaming Commission was set up, okay, to oversee the gaming activities in the territory of Kahnawake, to extract fees for licensing of gaming, a jurisdiction, okay? But it was also said in its bylaws that there were to be community elections for that. And it's just not happened yet.
And that's part of it, a big part of if they're not functioning properly, and I'm saying that they're not because there's only one or two people, maybe three that's in there, and what's the regulations? Who's actually going to do the work? Who's going to check whether something is right or wrong? Because it seems that everybody's falling through the cracks somehow. So then if you can't, you need to take care of what's going, like the structure now, before you can even consider doing anything like this. But it's been how many years now?
Right.
And they haven't done anything.
Yeah.
So you can't keep adding to the shit, because if it's piled up too high and you didn't clean it the first time, it's not going to get done the
doesn't
second
change.
time. No.
Doesn't change.
I mean, one of the
Yeah.
motivations is to talk about raising funds. At least one of the things, and I'm going to be cynical. I am cynical at this point. Is that yes, you know what, a certain amount of this money, when you talk about cutbacks and so on, I mean, the whole slant on is that the community must, collective, whatever that is now, the Borks, okay, must benefit from this, okay? But the one thing that I look at it cynically and I say, but you know what, really the bottom line is the funding needs to be there so that this thing continues to run. And by this thing, I mean, let's say the Mohawk Council structure needs to continue to run. That means jobs there, okay? And so that's what I look at. So I say, well, wait a second. You know, this is about you guys getting, again, we're going to get into this momentarily,
Right.
segueing into cutting the fat, okay? No, I mean, so like
Yeah,
if we're in such dire straits, where do you show leadership?
Yeah. And
Carl Horn had an interesting article.
but that's what I mean, and it's right. And I spoke to a previous chief, and I asked him about that. He told me the same thing. He says he can do it only 9 chiefs anyway. He says in his last term, 3 or 4 of the councils were gone most of the time anyway. They weren't even there. And he says we operated with no problem at all. You can't, their argument, he was telling me, he says the argument that the council is using is, well, it's less representation for this community. No representation is no representation. If you're not sitting there, you're not representing anybody. I don't care who voted for you. You have to be at work every day. But if you're off sick, and if you're, or you have something else, if you're not there for 6-8 months, you're not doing anybody any good.
Yeah, and that's a legitimate concern. But on the other hand, okay, if I said to you, and here's the proposition, is that really, do you believe in cliques? I mean, one former chief was talking about, Keith Mile was always talking about cliques, okay, or core groups. Okay, do you believe in that? I do.
Of course.
Okay, they're more real than tooth fairy. But okay, no, but.
No, I hear you.
So here's the thing. Sorry,
Okay.
Chris.
No.
Relax. But calm down. Is that if you can cut down the group to 9, that particular 4 people or 3 people, it's a lot. Assuming they get back in, it's a lot easier to control the flow or the outcomes from that table. So. On the downside of saying having 12 guys, 3 of whom never show up any damn way, okay, having more people that the community chooses seems to maybe function. I'm opposed to the whole system. Is it as a check?
Coulda, woulda, shoulda,
Balance.
everything else.
No, but I'm just saying. But
But I mean, he has a good point. I think that one of the first interviews I had done with him when he first got in, he said that he's going to protect those 11 new friends that he made. I don't know if they're going to protect him after that, trimming the fat.
Well, no, wait, well, hang on though. But you know what? He ought to have at least the protection of the Grand Chief, who also piped up in that article as well.
Yeah, but you know what? As the mayor of this community,
Yeah.
he should stand up to the plate and make some of those decisions. It's, you know, but he's not doing it. You know, and
But is that his role?
Yeah, it is. His job is to make sure that that things are going to be running smooth, and that
No, but is
regardless-
it his role to make unilateral decisions?
it's never his role, but he's going to do it anyway.
Well,
and
is
has
he
in the
doing
past.
it?
No, he hasn't.
No, well, wait a minute,
His predecessor-
wait a
his
minute.
predecessor
Is he
did
not doing it about this?
Well,
But is he doing it in other ways?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
The way I look at it, and quite honestly, it's how many. It's like people say like apples or oranges. It's how many apples and oranges we have. You know, like seriously, go and okay. If they're cutting back on funding, why? And change. And go after more funding. If we need more funding, go after it. How many people do they have working there to be able to do this?
and that's
But in turn,
that's the bigger.
but they don't. Those people, according
Well,
to
what I
them, don't. They seem to be incapable of doing that.
But you see, that's where the biggest thing that a lot the concerns in the community are is because now with the taxing issues and people, you know what? Somebody said that the most smallest thing to deal with for the last 10 years or 20 years is to get rid of, and it's, I don't even go by stamps, but get rid of the tax at the post office right in our community. Mm-hmm. And if you can't do that, how the hell are you going to do anything else?
Well, I'm never going to stop a donut shop from charging tax.
But you know what? They at least if you show your card, they don't charge you. But there, you know what I mean? The smallest thing, you can't even do that. How the hell are you going to do anything else? So
I don't know, exactly.
it comes to that. But you know what? Yes, now we're going to deal with the taxes on the gas.
But if we institute permits too, is that not a form of tax? I mean, if you got to have a permit to put up a sign on your property, you know, advertising your daycare, okay, is that a tax?
Do you actually think I'm going to get a permit?
No, but I'm just saying. But
You actually think
but
people
that's
are
part
gonna-
of. That's what they're looking at
Do you
doing.
actually think people
That's
are
what they're
going
doing in
to
terms
do
of
that?
law making in the community. They are doing that. Okay, so those are taxed. I think the whole thing. You know what? It's totally unrelated.
This is all pretty frustrating when you consider, you know, I don't know. But all I know is that right now we have to take a break, and we'll be back to discuss more of these frustrating issues right here on Straight Talk.